Not redirecting to YouTube.
Why?
Why? Because then
Will it save after? Or is it just live now and then afterwards?
it'll save. It'll save. Yeah. Alrighty.
Hello.
Hello.
It's you.
Great to see you.
Good to be here.
All right, we'll do those after. Hey, Glenn.
See ya. How you doing?
Baruch Hashem.
Levi? Levi?
Levy.
Mornings.
I'm Dale.
Hi, Dale. Fine. Wait.
If we put this there, it doesn't have to be in my. Alrighty.
You're on Zoom too.
We're on Zoom. And yeah. All right. So I think we're on. All right. So today is day one, class one of a wonderful, fantastic, amazing journey. We're going to be going on a journey where we've never gone before, because we're going to delve into the greatest Hasidic work that ever was created by Hasidim. We call it the written Torah of Hasidus, right? As we know, there's the Tanakh, there's the written part of the Torah, and then you have also the other part, the rest, the oral Torah, the Mishnah, the Gemara, Shulchan Aruch, etc. But the main part of the Torah, like the original burst of the Torah, that is the written Torah. And so, on one hand, it's the main part. Everything else expounds on and explains the written Torah. So too, all the other works of Hasidus are going to be based on and expounding the Tanya. You cannot have the Mishnah and the Talmud without the Torah, without the 5 books of Moses and the Tanakh. So too, you cannot have the rest of Hasidus without the Tanya, because the Tanya is not pivotal.
Basic, fundamental.
Fundamental. You have the idea that we also have there are 54 chapters, 54 parshas, 54 portions in the Torah. In addition to the 54 portions in the Torah, what do we have in Tanya? So there's not 54 chapters, there's 53 chapters, but if you're going to include the intro, now we have 54 chapters as well. So it's very connected and very similar. And, or as somebody wise once said about the Torah, which we can say this about the Tanya as well, that everybody can understand something, but in the end, nobody understands anything. So it's really, really, it's a fundamental work. We're going to learn stuff that we're going to be like, wow, this is like really cool. And so buckle up for the ride, and we're going to have a wonderful, wonderful ride. As I said, there's 54 chapters in the Torah, the portions in the Torah. There's also 54 chapters. We're going to try and do 1 chapter a week. Sometimes we're going to have to take 2 weeks on a chapter just because we won't be able to get through everything. But we'll try and see if we can sort of move through as much as possible to whatever extent possible. And so that's the way we're going to start off. So I want to back up a little bit, because before we start reading the Tanya and learning the Tanya, the question is, who wrote the Tanya? Why was the Tanya written? What was the point? What was the Alter Rebbe trying to accomplish with this book? So first things first, who was the Alter Rebbe? I'm going to mention Alter Rebbe many times, but who is the Alter Rebbe? The Alter Rebbe is the first Chabad Rebbe. As you know, there's our Rebbe, and then there's the 7th Rebbe. The Alter Rebbe is the first, and before him was the Maggid Mizrich and the Baal Shem Tov. So he's the third in the sort of Hasidic chain. He was born in the year 1745, which in the Hebrew year is Kahas, Tuf, Kuf, Hey, which is also the Chabad publishing house is called Kahas. He was a brilliant mind. Besides being a very righteous big tzaddik, at 2 years old, he already knew tons of chapters of Tehillim off by heart. When he was 8 years old, he wrote a commentary on the Torah at the age of 8, a commentary of the Torah which sort of combined the 3 greatest classical commentaries, the Rashi, the Ramban, Nachmanides, and the Ibn Ezra. And he sort of took their works and combined it all into one great explanation. You didn't have to open those books anymore because you learn this and everything will be great. It was beautiful until 2 years after he wrote it. He had a dream. In the dream, he was called to a court case. These three great sages had actually bringing him to a court case up in heaven, and it's a copyright infringement, intellectual property case, because they're saying he took what we had, he merged it in so beautifully that nobody's ever going to have to open up our books anymore, because of how great and how simply and clearly expounded he wrote in his book. So because of that, he actually went, and as sort of the verdict of this was to burn his commentary, destroy it, and he actually burnt his commentary that he had spent all his life. Remember, he was 8 years old when he wrote it, but he actually destroyed that. At 9 years old, he mastered astronomy and geometry. At 10 years old, he made a calendar, a 15-year calendar. Now, to work out the whole mathematics and stuff, how exactly the calendar works is not so simple. But he managed to write at the age of 10, he already made a calendar, not just 1 year, a 15-year calendar, which takes all the calculations into account. When he was 12, so we're talking about a year before his bar mitzvah still, he gave a class on astronomy in the big base medrash, in the big yeshiva study hall with all the great sages and rabbis. And the expression is, leimotzu yedeim v'ragleim. They couldn't find their hands and feet. They were so shocked. They they didn't know where, they were just like, their minds were blown. And that was at 12 years old. At 13, he had his bar mitzvah. It was a massive party. There was 7 days of celebrations. At each day, each party that they had each day, he got up there and gave an amazing dissertation. His father also did, and all the big scholars of town came, and they all wanted to hear the amazing pearls of wisdom that came forth from him at 13 years old. Fast forward a little bit, and he got married. At what age? 15. The ripe old age. Although, as Scott has told us, in the year 1900, even not that long ago in this country, the average life expectancy was 43. So 15 is already, almost ready to have a midlife crisis at the age of 15. So at 15, he got married. He received, for his dowry, he received 5,000 ruble. Now, to put that into a frame of reference, in those days, you could make a wedding cost about 300 ruble. Okay, so now this is 5,000 ruble. And it was given him as a dowry. He said, I will take on condition that I can do whatever I want with it. And he was given it, and he took that, and he gave it all away to tzedakah. So that's what he did with it. Sorry, 1 second. Let me just make sure that. Let me do this. When he's 15 years old, 1960, he marries Rebbetzin Shterner Sarah. She was the daughter of a big magnate. His name was Rabbi Yehuda Leib Segal. And they had 6 kids, 3 boys and 3 girls. His son, Dovber, succeeded him in becoming the next Rebbe. Now keep going 5 more generations, and we get to our Rebbe. So our Rebbe's great-great-great-great-grandfather was the Alter Rebbe.
Did you say 1960?
Sorry, 1760. Thank you. Yes. Sorry, 1760.
Yeah.
Yes. Feel free to correct me at any time. Another claim to fame in this room is he is Levi's great-great-great-grandfather. Devorah is a direct descendant of the Alter Rebbe.
Really?
And therefore Levi is also a direct descendant of the Alter Rebbe.
Really?
At 18, he was fluent in all the entire Talmud, all the commentaries, the hidden Torah, the sciences. He was just this brilliant encyclopedia right there. And then at the age of 19 in 1764, he started his search for a mentor. He said, okay, I know everything now. Now it's time to go find a mentor to actually guide me in. Now, what does he need guidance in? I mean, he's the greatest rabbi, But even someone who's so great still understands that getting guidance is a good thing to do. And so he goes to have a look. And there were 2 main places to go. There was Vilna, and there was Mezrich, where the Maggid of Mezrich lived. And he said, in Vilna, they teach you how to learn. I know how to learn. in Mezrich, they teach you how to daven. I don't know how to daven. Now, obviously, he didn't know how to daven. I mean, so what he meant to say is, I know how to read the words, I know how to translate, I know what, but I want to know how to like internalize these concepts of davening and get this. Davening is supposed to be a private conversation, sort of a conversation between me and Hashem. I want to learn exactly how I can manage to be able to do that. And so he ended up going, he went to Mezrich. When he's in Mezrich, the Maggid greets him, and the Maggid says, I want you to know that the Baal Shem Tov, my teacher, the Baal Shem Tov, told me that you are going to be coming here. And at the right time, you would eventually make it here and to become a student of mine. And you are going to be creating a new path in the Hasidic movement. And the Alter Rebbe started what we know nowadays as Chabad, which focuses on intellect, on the understanding of Hashem, more than the emotions of feeling. It's more of the understanding and internalizing the concepts. He actually said that when he was in Mezrich, he learned what Hashem is, what a Jew is, and the power of a nigun, the power of a melody. And so these are three very important parts of our life and of our connection to Hashem. At the age of 25, he composed the Shulchan Aruch. He wrote the Shulchan Aruch, which combines halacha and Kabbalah, putting them all together. This is about 300 years after the Shulchan Aruch. The first Shulchan Aruch written by the Beis Yosef was written. It's about 300 years after that, and he put this together. It's a masterpiece of halacha. We read it, those who read it, and the scholars look at it and like, wow, the way he put everything together. It's a fascinating piece of work to read at some point. This was after he had already finished the Talmud for 16 times. So he knew his stuff. At the age of 27, that was 25. He's only 27 years old right now. Okay. The Maggid of Mezrich passed away. So in 1772, the Maggid of Mezrich passes away. And now he ends up sort of becoming, at the beginning, he wasn't the leader, but he ended up becoming a sort of starting the Chabad part of Chassidus, to the point where in a short time, only 8 years later, in 1780, there were already about 15,000 families that considered themselves Chabad. So in a short time, he attracted an amazing amount of followers. He demanded truth. There's a Hayom Yom that says he could have had 50,000 more Chassidim if he wouldn't have said that he demands truth. If people, just let people live and let live, right? He said, no, you don't live and let live. We got to fight for the truth. We got to search for the truth, strive for the truth. And not everybody, people want to be complacent, be happy with fooling themselves. The previous Rebbe once said, you got to be smart. You can't be a fool, because if you're trying to fool if you're trying to be, fool around, you're only fooling yourself, and there's no point to fool a fool. So being on the straight and narrow is an important thing to do. Anyways, let's go back. We said 1780, right? Let's go back to 1775. In 1775, he decided to start writing the book of the Tanya. It took him 20 years to write the Tanya. Why did it take him so long? Well, obviously it's a fundamental work to put everything in there. But every letter was so exact. It actually says that there was a vav, the word and he wasn't sure should he put it in as a joiner or have these two things separate. And it took him 6 weeks to decide whether or not to put in the vav. So 20 years later, in 1795, is when the Tanya was printed for the first time. And by now, there are over 8,300 editions of the Tanya. In fact, including written in Braille, there's a Tanya in Braille. And in fact, there was a Tanya printed here in Moore. So there's a Tanya was printed here. It's edition number 2617 in 1985. In 1985, there was a Tanya, the Rebbe pushed Tanya should be printed all over, and it's more of a spiritual reason. And the Tanya was printed here as well. And he passed away at the age of 67 in 1812. We have over here, this Tanya is actually a Tanya that the Rebbe gave to Devorah. Inside she has an inscription that the Rebbe gave to her on the 10th of Shvat, 1990. So on 10th of Shvat, 1990, the Rebbe gave this Tanya to Devorah. The Rebbe was giving out Tanyas, and Devorah got this Tanya. So this is, as you can see over here, this is what the layout of the Tanya. The Tanya does not have vowels in it. And particularly, usually you will not find the original Tanya with vowels. They do have other Tanyas that have vowels in them, other editions, which is sort of like a learner's guide, but you won't, an actual Tanya doesn't have vowels in it.
Do you have it in English?
Is Tanya in English? Yeah.
Version?
Yes, Tanya is written in many languages. We have over here, where the lessons in second shelf in the middle. You see, it's like green words on a white lessons in Tanya.
Yeah.
So that over there, that's Tanya in English.
Practical.
Do we have the practice? We have. We have
You guys have it.
upstairs. I have it.
Yeah, I've seen it upstairs.
Oh, we have here. This is the original bilingual Tanya, which is the Hebrew and English. So that was the first Tanya. Tanya's printed in many languages, including Arabic. So for all our friends who speak Arabic, the Tanya is there available for you to, or you could just listen to this class in English. It might make it a bit easier. So now we slightly get a picture of who was the Alter Rebbe. Now it's time to try and find out, why did the Alter Rebbe write the Tanya? So there are two main reasons. One reason that he wanted a work that would explain the philosophy of Chabad. What is Chabad? Why Chabad? Where you come over here and say, okay, tell me what's Chabad? Well, if the Alter Rebbe is starting a new sort of course of philosophy, you have to explain what it is. So on one hand, it's that. Also, the Alter Rebbe explains in the introduction to his Tanya, the Alter Rebbe explains why he wanted to write the Tanya. And the Alter Rebbe explains, the Rebbe explains that there are two ways to do something. He quotes a story from the Tanya, the story from the Talmud, where there was a guy and he heard that the people of Jerusalem, the kids of Jew, they were really smart, and he's like, you know what, let me go see how smart they are. Anyways, he comes to the town, to Jerusalem. He comes to the kid and says, hey, which way to get into the city? So the kid says, do you want the long short way or the short long way? Like, what? Just give me the short way. It's like, okay, go straight down this road right here. That's the short way. But it's a short long way. It's like, it's short, good, I'm going. He goes, he takes the short path, and he gets there. The problem is, yes, he did get to the city quicker, but he got to the wall. There was no gate there. So yes, he reached the city in a quicker amount of time, but he couldn't get in. You have to retrace his steps, go the long way, but really it's a shorter way because you can actually get in from the other side. So there are two ways that we can be inspired. There's a quicker way and a long-lasting way. You can have, the Advil, which is quick, 30 minutes, you got your medication, or you have the slow release, the ones that last for, 8 hours, 12 hours, 24 hours. Which is a better way of inspiration? It's like a New Year's resolution. There was the guy who opened a new business. He's going to open his company. It's going to be called New Year's Resolution. For the first 2 weeks, it's a gym, and then it turns into a bar for the rest of the year. So that's it. Inspiration is great. I mean, we were all inspired at the high holidays. And then what happens? Are we still acting on the inspiration that we got at the high holidays? So Tanya is the long, short way, because we could do a quick transformation, but it's all external. It's not who we are. It's not transformative, and it's not going to change who we are, and it'll only be short-lasting. When you work on yourself, then it may take a little bit longer for me to get there, but it's much longer lasting. For example, when you burn paper versus burning a log of wood. Hey. So when you burn paper, it goes up in flame really quick, much bigger than a piece of wood. It catches on fire quicker, and it goes into a nice big flame, and it lasts for a couple of seconds, and it dies down. When you're trying to burn a log, it takes a while to catch on. But once it catches on, it goes on and on and on and on. So this is the idea. When it comes to inspiration, what type of inspiration are we going to have? Thank you. So to summarize what we've said up until now, we gave a brief overview of the life of the author and the Alter Rebbe, and explained that the Tanya is going to sort of be explained to us in the long, short way. It's longer, but it'll last, and therefore it's shorter because it's going to be continuous of this amazing transformation we could have. So the Tanya is a fascinating work, and the Alter Rebbe wanted to get approbation. And approbation is one of these words that you only learn in yeshiva. It's sort of like a guest forward written by a guest, you have all these books, written with a guest forward written by so and so. So Alter Rebbe for his magnum opus wanted to get these guest forwards. But before I tell you about these forwards that he got, I'm going to tell you a little story. Story is that there was a chassid who found a lot of money, and he was a simple teacher. Yes, that's my future. And so, yeah, he went to the Alter Rebbe, and the Alter Rebbe said, finish the year and then come back to me. So he finished the teaching year. He came back to the Alter Rebbe, and the Alter Rebbe said, open up a business. So he opens up a business, and he said, open up a store and come back to me in a year. He came back to him in a year, and he said to him, okay, how's business doing? Doing okay. He says, you're buying from the local wholesaler. Why don't you go to where your wholesaler buys from, and then you'll be able to make more profit? He said, great, no problem. So then he goes to wherever it was, Leipzig or wherever the fair was, and he went and started buying wholesale. Comes back a year later, and he says, how's business going? Business much better. The margin of profit is much bigger. He says, great. Now where you go for wholesale, where does he buy it from? Okay, he buys it in Königsberg. Okay, great. You should go over there and buy there. No problem. I'll go. And he says, and when you're there, I want you to bring me back a gift. Okay. Comes back. He's there. He's like, what gift can I buy the Alter Rebbe? So in those days, snuff was a big thing, smelling tobacco. And so he bought him a nice, beautiful silver ornate container, and he gives it to the Alter Rebbe. And the Alter Rebbe says, it's a nice gift. Not what I was looking for. Okay. Next year he goes back and tries to find the Alter Rebbe a nice gift. And he finds a nicer one and bigger one and more ornate. He brings it back, and the Alter Rebbe again says, beautiful, not exactly what I was looking for. All right, strike two. The Alter Rebbe says to him, do you ever go to the theater? He's like, I'm a chassid. What am I doing in a theater? So he gets to Königsberg. He says, okay, the Alter Rebbe says I should go to a theater. I'll go to the theater. He was a wealthy person. He went to the theater. He said, yeah, I want to buy a ticket. They said, okay, these are your options. He got himself one of those private booths. When I'm saying a theater, I don't mean a movie theater. We're talking like the play. I mean, we're talking about in the 1700s. And he gets himself his own private booth. He sits down and he falls asleep. He sleeps through whatever the show was, the performance, sleeping through it. The janitor comes, the janitor is sleeping, and the janitor sees him there. Oh, he was sleeping. Yes. The janitor sees him there, and the janitor says, what are you doing here? Hey, okay, he sees a guy dressed up like a chassid. It's like, these type of people don't usually frequent our establishments. He said, where are you from? He said, oh, I'm from Liozna. He said, great. He said, do you know Zalman you? Like, oh, must be the Alter Rebbe. He says, yes, I do. In fact, I'm one of his chassidim. I'm one of his followers. He said, beautiful. When you go back, please send him my regards. Okay. He goes back and he tells Alter Rebbe, there was a guy, his name was Carl, who was the janitor over there, and he sends his regards. And the Alter Rebbe says, oh, this is the gift that I was looking for. Okay. So before you go to the fair next time, come back to me. All right. He comes back to the Alter Rebbe. The Alter Rebbe gives him a package and says, go back to the theater. I want you to show this to him, but he cannot keep it. You can let him look at it. You must bring it back. So he goes there and he goes to the theater and he finds Carl and he gives it to him, and Carl opens it and looks at it, and Carl is amazed. It's like, oh my goodness, this is amazing. Wow. He's blown away. What was it? It was the manuscript.
Yeah, there's nothing left.
Yes. What was it? It was a manuscript of the Tanya. And he was so amazed that he said, this is bringing so much new godly revelation and Torah into this world that what is there left for Mashiach to teach us? That's how amazing this is. And so Chassidim say this guy must have been one of the 36 hidden tzaddikim. There are 36 hidden tzaddikim in every generation. And they sort of keep a low profile, often taking jobs where people don't even realize that they're doing regular mitzvahs. But they're there and they're trying to keep a low profile, but they are really on a very, very high level. Often they would take jobs like this. Everyone thinks he's a little janitor. Really, he could be spending his whole time, going over the different parts of Torah and studying it, because he's just a janitor. No one's looking into seeing what he's doing. So here it just gives us a little glimpse into the greatness of the book. And he also got approbations from two other great mystics from Yehuda Leib. Yehuda Leib said that this is like the Keteris, like the incense of the Ikvus of the Mashiach, the footsteps of Mashiach, when there was a plague. And with the Jewish people in the desert, there was the incense that they took and it stopped the plague. So he's saying over here, this is going to, whatever's going on in this world, any mal, this Tanya, this is going to help everybody for everything they need. And Reb Zusha of Anipoli said, with this book, we're going to go and greet Mashiach. So this is the approbations show us from these great mystics how great the book of the Tanya is. And this brings us to, there's a saying in the Hayom Yom. The Hayom Yom is a book written by the Rebbe. The Rebbe wrote it in 1943. 1943. The Rebbe put together a calendar. The first, I don't know if there were any before that, but you know, the inspirational calendars with an inspirational quote for each day. The Rebbe made one in 1943. The Rebbe put one together. And in there, he says one of the things that he says on one of those days is that what is the goal of Chassidus? The goal of Chassidus is to show that in relation to Hashem, how small man is, but not just to show us how small we are, but to show us how great we could become. And that's what the goal of Chassidus is. That through Tanya, we can expand our mind, we can expand our soul to a place where it's never been before. So was everybody happy with the Alter Rebbe writing the Tanya? You would think, with it's so great, it's so amazing, everyone will be jumping on it. Well, unfortunately, not everybody was. Because with the printing of the Tanya, he was publicizing the deep secrets of the Torah and Kabbalah that were not revealed to people. And not everyone was happy. People were saying, this is stuff, these are secrets. These have been hidden for years and years, for thousands of years, and now you're going to go and let the public know about this? This is a problem. And they were against him. And he said that he gave a parable. He said, you had a king, and the king his prince is ill, and they're trying to work out a cure. Nobody knows how to find a cure. Finally, one guy says, Your Majesty, I have a cure for you. However, you're not going to want to do it. So what do you mean? He says, I'll tell you, it's very simple. The cure is that there is a certain type of stone that if you take this stone and crush it, you'll be able to, from this powder, you'll be able to make a great, you take this and you make a medicine out of it, and you need your boy to be able to ingest it. But he's so sick, we don't even know if he's going to ingest it. And the king said, okay, great, go get me the stone. He said, there's only one place I know where that stone is, and that's the crown jewel in your crown. Which means we are going to destroy your crown in order for this. And the king said, what use is my crown if I don't have an heir? So he said, crush it. If even one drop might enter my son and might make him better, it's worth crushing the stone. So the Alter Rebbe said, look what's going on over here. The Jewish people are like a dying prince. It was sort of, it was right after Shabtai Tzvi, who was the false Messiah. People thought he was the Messiah. And he rallied the troops and got everyone excited and lifted up the hopes of the Jews. I mean, this is after the Cossacks and all these problems over there. And everyone's now saying, oh, yeah, there's hope, a glimmer of hope. And when Shabtai Tzvi converted to Islam, they realized he wasn't, not the person we're looking for. And so the Jewish people went like a faint. And it says, what do you do when someone's faint? You call their name. So you have the Baal Shem Tov was born. The name of the Baal Shem Tov was Yisrael. The name of the Jewish people, Israel. And he was there to sort of infuse life into the people. So the Alter Rebbe's colleagues were saying, great. We have a bit of Chassidus. We have enough to wake the Jewish people up from a faint. But that's it. We averted a problem, put away the first aid kit, and keep it hidden till the Alter Rebbe understood the times. And the Alter Rebbe knew what was plaguing the people. And the Alter Rebbe knew that what would be able to help people grow. So, you see, till this point, Chassidus of the Baal Shem Tov taught us what to do. And that's what his colleagues were saying. We know what to do. But the Alter Rebbe was teaching us how we can do it. It's not enough to know what to do. You got to know practically how we can do that. And it's like there are two ways to be able to cure somebody. One way is to treat the symptoms, And the other way is to actually find out what is the root cause of the problem, fix the root cause, and once you fix the root of the problem, now all of a sudden everything else goes away. And that's what the Alter Rebbe wants to help us with in the Tanya. The Alter Rebbe in the Tanya wants to go to the root cause, find out what's the issue, what can help us, how things are going, and from there, we'll be able to fix everything. Instead of working with my issues, the symptoms, let's work with the cause. So what is this book called? The book is called Tanya. Why is it called Tanya? So the first reason, the simple reason it's called Tanya, is because it's the first word of the book. And in those days, the custom was that you would call a book by the first word of it. Great, no problem. But there's a deeper meaning also. You have a look. Over here, you can see this word says Tanya. This word says Eitan. Same letters, right? Taf Nun, Yud Aleph, Yud Aleph. So it's the same letters, rearranged. And here's a deeper meaning, because the word Eson means strength and also means ancient. So this is really, really powerful. This idea that the Tanya comes from the same root of the word that means ancient and that means powerful. Because do we have the ability? The Alter Rebbe is going to want to tell us how we can change. Do we have that ability to be able to change? So the answer is yes, we do have the strength to do it. This is not some new age stuff made in China, which once you get the tariffs, you won't. This is quality. The Tanya is quality. We have a strong neshama. We have a very strong soul, which is a literal part of Hashem. And what could be greater than that? So this is the inspiration, and this is the mindset we need to have as we embark on this journey of the Tanya. So this book can help us work out who we are, what we are, and how to perfect ourselves, to work out the power that we have within ourselves. And it's not that we are fundamentally flawed, but rather we do have some flaws that are able to be fixed. It may take time, but it's going to be a great journey as we go on this journey, as we embark this journey. So, great. We know the reason the Alter Rebbe wrote the Tanya. We have a general idea of what Tanya seeks to accomplish. So now let's get a little bit of practical. And the question is, can perfection be attained? And the answer is, you say no. Anybody else? Anyone want to argue with him? Or everyone wants to agree? Everyone's agreeing. Okay. Everyone says, no, perfection cannot be attained. Well, here's the thing. What is perfection? Is perfection what I am, or is perfection what I do? And that's a very, very, very simple, but it's very, very deep concept.
Perfection's a goal.
If perfection is a goal, I will never reach the goalpost always keeps changing.
Right.
As when I get better, well now, okay, the goalpost goes further. More perfect, but not perfect. We're more perfecter.
You want the goal to keep going, because if you meet it, then you stop.
Oh, very good.
You be there then.
So
Or is perfection a thought?
right. So what is perfection? And then again, do I need to be perfect, or do I just need to do perfect? If I do perfect, is that good enough? If I myself am not perfect? So modern society and the way people are saying things is it's all about what you feel, all about what you think, and you need to be perfect, you need to take care. Question is that real? Do I really need to be perfect? Or can I just do perfect? If I'm in depression right now, let's say, and I don't feel like waking up. So do I say, well, I'm in depression, I don't feel like waking up, I'm not going to wake up? Or do I say, I'm in depression, but I got work to do, so I'm going to get up anyways, I'm going to go do my work, and I'll do with my emotions what I want to do with my emotions. That's the difference between being perfect or feeling or doing perfect, right? If somebody is depressed and they get up and do what they need to do, are they really depressed? Can they might be depressed, but they're not letting they're still doing what they're supposed to, which on the outside you wouldn't know. So the way we perceive reality is going to lead us into how we feel about reality. So perception leads to emotion. I've said this story recently. I don't remember exactly when. There was a guy on a subway, and he's there in the subway, and he sees this guy with a couple of kids, and his kids are running around going crazy, and he tries to. The father's just like sitting there. The father's not even trying to rein them in, and this guy's watching. It's like, come on, really? You know, the kids run around. He goes up to the dad and says, "Can't you control your kids?" You know, look at them. They're running around. He said, "I wish I could. You know, we're actually." You know, their mother just passed away, and we're actually on our way back from the funeral. The guy hears that. He feels, you know, he feels like a schmata. Like, really? I really just went up to this guy and what he's going through. He calls the kids over. He says, "Hey, kids, hey, you want to play a game?" He starts speaking to them and talking to them and interacting with them, and he takes care of them. What changed? Nothing in reality changed. What changed is perception. And in his perception, instead of being a lazy or useless parent not taking care of his kids and letting them go rowdy, he realized this guy has no strength anymore. And these kids just going through turmoil. And he said, okay, I'm going to step in. So it's perception, not reality, that had changed for him. So the question is, what am I? I am my neshama. I am my soul. That's what I am. What I do is, in Tanya, it's called levushim. It's just clothes. It's garments. I can constantly change my garments whenever I want. And so, you know, I'll give you an example. Does everybody know their timetables? Right? Okay. Run through the 5 times table for a second. From 5 times 1 to 5 times 10. Okay, done? Great. So you just went through the times table. The question is, did you know that before? Did you just work it out now? You knew it before. You knew it for years and years and years. But you're not thinking about it every day. You weren't thinking about it before I asked you about it. So we have a lot of information. Just because we know about something, it doesn't mean that we need to think about it. So when we focus on our levush, we focus on the garments, focus on what we do, that is more important than what we know and what we think. What we want to happen allows us to make it happen. There was a story of a chassid, and Levi can help me with the names over here. That he went to his rebbe and he said, "How do I keep these thoughts, the improper thoughts that I shouldn't be having? I keep popping into my mind. How do I stop it?" And he said, "Go to this in this town. You go to my disciple, and he'll ask him." So he goes there. That was the person we went to.
I think so. I mean, it was either person who asked or the person he went to. I think it was the person he went to.
And so he comes there and he knocks on the door. There's no answer. He rings the bell. There's no answer. He looks through the window. He sees the people are there, but nobody's answering the door. Finally, after a while of many hours of being ignored, the door opens. He invites him in. He says, "Hey, how are you? Come in. Welcome." He says, "It's so nice of you to invite me, but why'd you leave me out there? For Al, you knew I was there. You heard the knocking." He says, "Why are you here?" He says, "I'll tell you. I'm here because I want to know." I asked our master, what do I do with these thoughts? And they keep popping in. And he says, "And that's why I left you outside. This is my house. I decide who comes in. Your mind is yours. You can decide what comes in. Thoughts don't have to come in. We don't cough in somebody's face, right? Why won't I go up to you and cough in your face? Oh, I couldn't hold myself in. There are certain things you control yourself because you know it's improper. You're not going to do it. So people say, "Oh, I lost control." We don't lose control. We give up control. If I lose control, then I'd start coughing in your face and doing all these other stuff. When I lose control, I don't lose control, right? I give it up. And that's the idea. We don't want to give up control. We want to try and hold on to it. There was a kid who was learning about Tanya, learning about the Beinoni, and he said, "I want to be a Beinoni, but I don't know how to do that. It's impossible to become so perfect." So he went to his grandfather and said, "Zaidi, you know, I need some help over here. Could you help me? How can I become perfect?" He says, "Okay, you know what? Take it to Hillel, take the book of Psalms from the bookshelf, sit down, say a couple of chapters for 2 minutes, and then come back to me." Okay, he takes out the book, he reads it, he puts it back. He comes to his grandfather says, "So, no, let me ask you a question. when you were saying the Tehillim, what were you thinking about? I said, I was thinking about the Tehillim. He said, do you think about any sin? No. Do you think about anything that you shouldn't have? No. It's like, great. That 2 minutes, just keep doing that for the rest of your life. So it's a nice, cute story, but it brings out the point that we could be in control if we want to be in control. We just have to want to be in control. And then comes the question, okay, I want to be in control. How do I stay in control? And that's what the Tanya is going to be talking about. The Tanya is not a book for a tzaddik. The Tanya is the book of, it's called Sefer Shel Beinanim. In the practical Tanya, I think he calls it the book for the
Average, intermediate.
the book of the average, I think.
In-betweeners?
In-betweeners, is that what it's called?
It is called
The book of the in-betweeners, right? Be the average. What does it mean to be in between? A Rasha, the wicked guy who nobody wants to be there. A tzaddik is somebody who never has an improper thought ever. We're not there. So we want to be a Beinani. We're just the average guy. Sounds like a tall order for an average guy to be doing perfect all his life. But we could, because it's attainable for everybody to, the average person is able to attain perfection or actions perfection, right? We can do perfect if we want. And with all thinking over here, nice try, nice, very idealistic, but practically that ain't happening. And the answer is it could, but once we finish the Tanya, we're going to walk out of here and say, wow, I could do it. Not have to decide if I want to, but I could be perfect. I could do perfect. And that's the idea that Tanya is going to do. So how do I change myself? So the answer is we need to change what we do, what we think, how we think. We have to have a mind shift in how things are. Because just because we know about something, it doesn't mean we think about it all the time. Like we brought about the times table, right? There are some things that you could know, which is not good to think about. People who went through a traumatic experience, you don't want to keep reliving that traumatic experience for the rest of your life and keep thinking about it. You try and push it away and say, I don't want to think about this anymore. There are certain images that will keep coming back to you. One of them that for me is seeing my mother on her deathbed. Seeing that those moments as a soul moved on. I was there, I saw it, and I don't like reliving that image. It's not the image I want to see. Every once in a while, I'm thinking about it, and it comes in, and I sort of try and, consciously push it away because it's not something I want to be thinking, not the image that I like having. So the same way we're able to do that, we can sort of choose what we want and how we're going to think. So it's like if I give you a menu and I say, here, hey, what do you want to order? And you're like, give me a minute, I got to think what I want. You have to think what you want, you have to decide what you want. It's not about thinking, you know about all the thoughts. Now the question is, okay, practically, which one am I going to use? So that's the answer. How do we deal with that? And so the question is, are we a contradiction, right? I want to do what's right, but I also don't want to do what's right. I want to also do what's not right. It's like, on one hand, I'm not religious, right? But I come to shul. I come to Torah class. I put on tefillin. I have a mezuzah. I daven once in a while. So what am I? Am I, am I a paradox? Am I confused? Am I schizophrenic? No. We are who we are, and that's what we need to try and focus on. So I want to take a break for a moment. I'm going to pass out these papers. It's pretty cool. There's some pens over here. I'm going to ask you to fill this out. Please don't look at anybody else's paper. If you could give one to Dale, and for Scott, here, you can take one, pass it down. Okay, just read the intro and check off those 4 questions. I'm sorry for the people who are online. If you could give us 2 minutes as they're filling it out, and then you get to hear as we go through this.
Find jeering.
Hmm?
Jeering.
Like making fun of, like laughy, making fun of. There you go. Yeah.
Mine?
No, not yet. No, I'm not going great at it. We're gonna go through it together. In a moment. One, two more people finishing off. All right. Question number one. Who said his eyes appear cold? Anyone have cold or stern? You have cold? You have cold? Stern? Stern? Warm or sad?
I did warm.
Warm? Warm?
Yes.
Okay. Smile. Is he proud or jeering? Proud, jeering? Proud? Kindly? Sincere?
Very sincere.
I wrote in no smile.
No smile. Okay. His overall expression appears cruel, humble, sinister, or thoughtful. Who said cruel? Who said humble? Who said sinister? You said sinister. Only one sinister. Who said thoughtful? You said thoughtful. And how does his mustache or hat affect his appearance?
I'd say dapper.
Dapper.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely like a clean, old, we would think of it as old fashioned way of dressing.
A clean, old-fashioned,
Yeah, so I wanted to use a
old-fashioned word. Perfect. What did you say?
It's a bit of a authoritative look.
Authoritative,
Refined.
refined,
Dignified.
dignified,
I put it adds to his features
as
being sinister.
of being sinister,
He doesn't look at all like.
and
Hides what he's truly thinking.
hides what he's truly thinking.
He doesn't look at all like a murderer.
Now,
Yeah.
Here's the thing. Everybody's page is the same picture and the same questions. The intro, however, is different.
Oh.
Who has Charles?
The Charles.
You have
Orban.
Charles? You have Charles?
Charles.
You have Charles. Ludor, who do you have? Charles?
I do.
Okay. So Charles is a good guy. Charles was the Red Cross liaison between Britain and Germany during World War II. Through his tireless efforts of the British bureaucracy and Jewish rescue committees, he made the rescue of hundreds of German Jewish children possible in what's known as the Kindertransport. And he was honored by Yad Vashem. Who has helmet?
Oh, I do.
You have helmet. Okay. Helmet was a chief at the top.
Oh.
Helmut was a chief commandant of the SS operations in the Balkan countries. He single-handedly set up 10 concentration camps and 4 death camps and was commended for his efforts by Hitler in an official ceremony. He was nicknamed the White Butcher for his accomplishments, having caused the murder of 300,000 Jews without once having actually stained his hands. He disappeared after the war and he was never brought to justice.
Did anyone else
Now.
get him?
Yes, you
Yeah.
and Scott
Me.
and Dale.
Okay.
So some people got Charles, some people got Helmut. Some people thought that he was a nice guy, and therefore their answers to your questions gave off this appearance of he's a nice guy, and therefore that's how the answer was. Other people thought that he was this murderer, and therefore like, okay, he's sinister and he has this other stuff. So it's sort of
And then.
the reason.
I thought he was a murderer, and then I was told he was a murderer, and he thought that he didn't look like one at all. I thought he looked like a nice guy.
Well, that's because it's the same picture in both.
Who is he actually?
That's a good question. It's a Google Lens that. But the idea is that based on our preconceived notions, we can come up with different ideas. We don't all think. If we would just say, if we would know who he is, then everyone would come up with the same basic ideas of what he looks like and how he's thinking and stuff like that. But when different people have different thoughts of who he is, now all of a sudden the picture changes. So
It's kind of biased.
a bias, 100%, 100%. There's a bias. And so what happens is we all have biases in the way I think I can and I cannot do. And even more than that is based on my thought process, that changes my actions. That's what we brought the story of the guy in the subway. His thought process changed his actions. So in Tanya, we're going to speak about our thought process and how our thought process can affect our actions. So what is Tanya? Tanya teaches us how to live as a wholesome Jew. It addresses the full human psyche. It's spiritual, theological, philosophical, emotional, mental, or psychological issues. Basically, it goes through the entire gamut of everything. And everything is addressed. But the context of how everything is addressed is how we can infuse our Judaism with meaning to make it relevant and real. So we need to understand our struggles. We need to realize that overcoming our struggles is within reach. And we are able to, we all have this dichotomy inside of us where it's like, okay, well, what am I? Today I act like this, tomorrow I act like that. I don't know where I am sometimes, especially when it comes to our connection to Hashem. And we think like, well, where should we be? Where can we be? And Tanya is going to address that. Tanya is going to explain. So as we go through the book of Tanya, each chapter is packed with fascinating info, great insights. We're going to go through Tanya quicker than I did in yeshiva. When I was in yeshiva, we did probably about 3 chapters a year, 3 to 5 chapters a year, because you go in depth and depth and depth. However, we want to try and go through this a little bit quicker so you'll be able to get the context of what's going on. And the Tanya is sort of split up like an instruction manual. Right. The first we start defining the parts of the product. Then you explain how they function, troubleshooting, and then mastery and best practices. So that's sort of the layout of the way Tanya is. So in short, over the next year, when we learn the Tanya is going to speak about the following stuff. Tanya is going to sort of start off, and here's like a general roadmap of what the Tanya looks like. Chapter 1 to 8 is going to be the basics. Understanding the world, understanding our makeup, how things operate, the operating system of the world, so to speak. Then 9 to 15, we'll speak about our inner struggle that we all have. And then 16 to 19 is going to be like some soul hacks, what we could do about these struggles that we have. Then we go on to discuss about having a higher consciousness, and that will have a great influence on us and what we do. Then we speak about emotions, handling negative emotions, apathy, disregard for others, anger, frustration, etc. Then we're going to speak about positive emotions, that when we understand what's really going on, it's a lot easier to be positive, as we gave that subway story before. Then we speak about the importance of actions, the importance of reverence and love to Hashem, and the workings of the Shekhinah. So basically what we come down to is that despite our deficiencies, despite our struggles, we can really soar beyond. And we can feel a real closeness and a deep devotion to Hashem. So this is the overview. Today was just an overview class of what Tanya is, who wrote it, what is the main parts of it, what it's about. And next class, we're going to start getting into the meat and potatoes of the Tanya. We're going to focus on understanding the first part of our soul. We're going to talk about what's the first part of our soul. That's where our thoughts, where our nature, where our tendencies come from. We're going to speak about whether physical pleasures and desires are natural and normal, or do they go against how we were created and go against our service of Hashem? And I'll give you a little spoiler alert over here. The answer is it is natural, and it is how we were created to serve Hashem, to have our natural tendencies and desires and pleasures which sort of go against. So that's the idea of what we're going to start off with in the next class.
Sounds great.
Any questions, comments, concerns?
Oh, yes.
Yes.
This is Herbert Pell. He was an American congressman who created the War Crimes Commission that tried all the Nazis.
Wow.
He helped lead it. So he was, it's quite ironic because he was involved.
He was involved, but the opposite of what we're.
Yeah.
Thank you. You had a question.
Yeah, I'm a little confused at the whole you can control your thoughts, because if I tell you, hey, don't think about a purple elephant, you're gonna think about a purple elephant.
Oh.
So how do I just like prevent myself from thinking about things? Because to my, like, isn't it natural to think about things and then it's only if you act on them then you're bad?
Great question. So I'm going to give you a slight answer,
Mhm.
but I'm not going to go into it in depth because we are going to go out there. It does discuss it.
Cool.
There's nothing wrong with a thought starting to come into your mind. That's natural. What happens the next second? That's in your control.
Got it.
Now, you can't not think about the purple elephant if you're speaking about the purple elephant.
Mhm.
There's a very big difference between the Hasidus philosophy and the Musar. It's the idea of Sur Meira and Aseh Tov. The Rebbe spoke about this a lot, where if you're going to try and beat darkness, you're going to be constantly thinking about the darkness, right? I have this issue, this negative thing that I don't want to think about, so I'm going to think about not thinking about it. And as you said, that's all I'm doing. There's a story of Rabbi Yonatan, I've just maybe that the king said, "Oh, you're so great. You tell me what I'm going to think about tonight." And he said something like that. You're going to think about like pink elephants or something. And he's like, crazy. Anyways, the next morning, that night, he goes to sleep, and that's what he thinks about. Calls the rabbi, like, "Wow, you're amazing. Like, how did you know?" He says, "Very simple. I planted a seed in your mind about these pink elephants, and the whole day you were thinking, I'm not going to be thinking about that. And what we think about at nighttime, what we dream at night, is what we think about during the day. You were thinking about the whole day. What do you think you were dreaming about?" So, if we're going to think about the negative, so the idea is focus on the positive. If there's something negative comes to you, just focus on the positive, and that you can replace. You can't create a void. When you have a void, the void will always be there, unless you fill the void. You can't create a void and say, "I don't want it to be." Like if there was a chassid came to the Rebbe. He was a bacher, and he said that he was having a hard time with his whole spiritual service of Hashem and had dealing with stuff, and it was sort of overtaking him. And the Rebbe said to him that holiness needs a certain amount of space. Don't make space for holiness to fill. When holiness needs it, it will take up its own space. Meaning, if you're going to try and get rid of your negativity without bringing in positivity, you're creating a vacuum, and that is bad. So as you grow your positive, the negative will fall away by itself.
What chapter, Tanya, is this spoken about?
Well, we quoted a couple of different stuff.
Okay. Well, my question, what would you say?
Probably somewhere between the 9 to 15
Okay.
range. Because there's the natural part of what we are, and then the godly soul that we have, and then trying to merge the two.
Thank you.